Okay, so for the last part of this lecture series in cellular respiration, again, we are just really just scratching the surface, and I really hope that you appreciate that. But how more complex and more involved and just how beautiful this whole process is. I have a wonderful animation that I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to try to talk to you as the animation is going. But you can see it at the bottom of the screen where it says Step 3, hydrogen ions returned to the matrix via ATP synthase. So this is what the electron transport chain is doing, and these are going to be the steps that are necessary. So bear with me as we get this going. Okay, so we see the electron transport chain is just going to be a series of proteins embedded in the membrane. In step 1, we see the hydrogen carriers release those high-energy electrons. This is called oxidation. So the NADH from glycolysis and Krebs cycle are going to be dumping their H+. Those high-energy electrons move the hydrogen ions outside of the matrix. It creates something called an electrochemical gradient, and then it's going to push the hydrogen ions back through the ATP synthase to generate ATP. So again, those high energy electrons are making this possible. Well, we've got to have something there to accept those hydrogen ions and of course the 2 electrons, and it's going to be the final electron acceptor called oxygen. And I think that each one of us has had exercise and we have felt the fatigue in our muscles, and that's a sure sign that that we're missing some oxygen here. Okay, so let's. I'm going to move this out of the way just a tiny little bit, and I'm just going to kind of let it play over and over while we're talking about this. But I thought it might be good for us to see the chemical reaction. So remember, we are taking in glucose, and along with our oxygen. Because we, of course, our mitochondria require oxygen to manufacture water and carbon dioxide. So where do we find each one of these? Of course, glucose we found in glycolysis. This is breaking down the food that we eat. The oxygen, of course, is coming from the atmosphere that we breathe, because the Krebs cycle as well as the electron transport chain are aerobic. The water is produced in the electron transport chain, and we see that CO2 is given off in the Krebs cycle as part of a means for making ATP. But of course, we have to balance every chemical equation that we come across. So I have 1 molecule of glucose with 6 molecules of oxygen to produce 6 molecules of water and 6 molecules of CO2. Now, I don't know if you've caught on to this, but if you notice, cellular respiration is the opposite or the reverse reaction of photosynthesis. So it's very clear that these 2 things are connected.